4 EU cities are planning a huge Brexit power grab in a massive blow to the UK and City of London, the boss of the world's biggest bank has warned. J.P. Morgan chief executive Jamie Dimon told shareholders in an annual letter Brexit cannot be positive for the UK in the short term and will lead to increased costs for customers, both in the UK and throughout Europe. He added, Europe has had, and will continue to have, the upper hand. City bankers are becoming increasingly concerned about the lack of a detailed agreement between the UK and European Union on financial services, which remains Britain's biggest and most lucrative industry. Last month, the two sides signed a memorandum of understanding on financial services, but they still at loggerheads over an equivalence deal that would grant further access to UK-based firms. Speaking on the distance between the UK and EU in the current talks, Mr. Dimon said, in the short run, the next few years, this cannot possibly be a positive for the United Kingdom's GDP. The effect after that will be completely based upon whether the United Kingdom has a comprehensive and well-executed strategic plan that is acceptable to Europe. He hailed London as being a magnificent place to do business in terms of the rule of law, people and technology, but also warned the future financial rules with the EU are hugely uncertain after Brexit, and named 4 EU cities that will benefit. Mr. Dimon said, it is clear that, over time, European politicians and regulators will make many understandable demands to move functions into European jurisdictions. Because of this, and because of strong European efforts to compete with London, Paris, Frankfurt, Dublin and Amsterdam will grow in importance as more financial functions are performed there. J.P. Morgan has around 12,000 staff in London and 19,000 across the UK, but Mr. Dimon warned it is possible a tipping point may arise where the firm has to move all of its operations out of the capital serving the EU to the continent. 5:40 a.m. Update, EU unity shatters as Denmark accuses Brussels of breaking condition of membership. The EU's plans to impose a bloc-wide minimum wage directive risks breaking terms of a 1970s agreement with Denmark, the country has warned. The bloc has sparked anger in both Sweden and Denmark over its policy, which politicians in the Scandinavian countries seem intent on fighting. Stockholm urged 7 other member states aside from the Danes to join its letter to the EU's rotating presidency opposing the directive. While the directive doesn't force a minimum wage figure, it does require all member states to establish procedures for adequate minimum wages. But in countries like Sweden and Denmark, a system of collective bargaining has long been preferred. 3:20 a.m. Update, EU orders AstraZeneca to hand over all vaccines made at Dutch plant funded by UK taxpayer. AstraZeneca will hand over almost all of the coronavirus vaccines made in the Netherlands to the EU despite the UK having a claim to the doses. EU vaccines czar Thierry Breton said the Anglo-Swedish firm had confirmed it would send 6 million doses to the bloc every month from its Hallex plant in Leiden. The factory has been at the center of the cross-channel jabs war because the UK has a contractual claim for it to fulfill orders of the Oxford-produced jab for our domestic vaccination drive. During tense talks over EU-UK vaccine cooperation, Downing Street offered to share production capacity at the facility with Brussels. But Mr. Breton said AstraZeneca's CEO Pascal Soriot had acknowledged all but one batch made at the plant will be sent to EU member states. 1:40 a.m. Update, French farmers set tires on fire in furious protest at EU reforms, Macron issued warning. Violence has flared during demonstrations by furious French farmers protesting against European Union agricultural reform. Protesters clashed with police in the towns of Bourges and Toulouse as farmers from across the country took a stand against policy changes dictated by Brussels. About 400 farmers drove into the towns on tractors. They had posters with inscriptions such as, Save your farmer, and, Macron, don't do nonsense, there will be elections soon. The regional branch of the French Farmers Association, FNSEA, and the Young Farmers Organization YA had called for the action. 12:15 a.m. Update, the Brits do it. Macron ally Beaune unveils plot to make French official EU language. Clement Beaune's obsession with ensuring French becomes the official language of the European Union has reached new peaks after he announced a new project ahead of France's EU Council presidency in 2022. The French European Affairs Minister announced a new plan to highlight the French language and relaunch its use within international bodies, particularly in the EU. Mr. Clement, together with the French Tourism Minister Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne, will be pushing for French to replace English as the EU's official language now that the UK has left the bloc. Friday 9 April, 9:03 p.m. Update, EU's power is growing. Deluded rejoiners unveil fresh plot for United States of Europe. Rejoiners in the UK have teamed up with Europhiles across the bloc to launch the first pan-European party in a bid for the EU to become the United States of Europe. The latest attempt at more integration in the European Union comes from the Volt Europa movement, a self-described pan-European progressive party. Rejoiners in the UK have already joined the group in the hope that Britain will resubmit itself to the EU's shackles. The Party of Cross-Country Europhiles has released a comprehensive set of policies, including a foreign policy plan for the bloc to fully become a federalized state with its own EU army. 7:59 p.m. Update, von der Leyen blunder, EU leader posts incorrect title for Prince Philip in tribute. Brussels boss Ursula von der Leyen used the incorrect title when paying her respects after the death of Prince Philip. The European Commission President failed to use His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh's full title in a social media post to commiserate his death. She wrote, "I am saddened to hear of the passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip. I would like to extend my sincere sympathy to Her Majesty the Queen, the royal family and the people of the United Kingdom on this very sad day." 5:48 p.m. Update, British expats could be cut from Spain's vaccine waiting list, could impact thousands. Expats living abroad have been issued a coronavirus vaccine warning by a UK national living in Spain. Although the vaccine rollout is beginning to ramp up in Spain, one UK national living in Tenerife revealed he had not been on the country's vaccination list. Fred Hall, who lives in the town of Icod de Los Vinos, revealed he had not been on the state's vaccine list as he had private healthcare insurance. Due to this, he was forced to contact local officials to alter the list and called on the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office (FCDO) and consular services to aid expats living abroad. 4:31 p.m. Update, EU fury, Juncker's fiery attack after Greta Thunberg accused bloc of climate negligence. EU legend Jean-Claude Juncker used Greta Thunberg's criticism over the bloc's modest climate targets as a pretext to lash out at former U.S. President Donald Trump. Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg has announced on social media she does not plan to attend the UN climate conference due to be held in Glasgow this November. The 18-year-old is concerned about the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on attendance at COP26. She believes the summit should be postponed until global vaccination rates have risen. 3:17 p.m. Update, You Need Us. Gloating EU vaccine supremo taunts Britain in coronavirus jibe. Britain depends practically entirely on the EU for its COVID-19 jabs, the man who heads up the European Commission's Vaccine Task Force has gloated. As European Internal Market Commissioner, Thierry Breton is overseeing the bloc's procurement of the various types of vaccine. And he singled out the UK in an appearance on France Info this morning, insisting that Britain depends practically entirely on the European Union for its COVID-19 vaccines. James Bickerton takes over live reporting from Paul Withers, 2:45 p.m. Update, Brexit poll, should Boris step in after prawn row between Norway and Scot fishermen? Vote. Scottish fishermen have launched a blistering attack against the EU after accusing European fleets of violating conservation rules in UK waters. But should Boris Johnson step in to resolve the escalating issue? 1:40 p.m. Update, Baroness Hoey confronts zealot Remainers and shouts Northern Ireland has not got Brexit. Baroness Kate Hoey has fired back at Zealot Remainers on social media and set the record straight after she was confronted over her previous pro-Brexit comments in relation to Northern Ireland. The Life peer has delivered a fierce defense after remarks she made prior to the 2016 EU referendum resurfaced online. The former Labour MP acknowledged she said Northern Ireland would have a brighter future after leaving the EU, but made it abundantly clear Belfast has not got Brexit. Ms. Hoey hit out at Remainers after she was reminded on Twitter by political commentator Mike Holden about an article she wrote on May 13, 2016. In the opinion piece, the Brexiteer insisted, Brexit won't hurt Northern Ireland at all, instead, it will brighten its future. The 74-year-old has now clarified her comments in a fiery post on the social media platform. In a tweet, she wrote, to the Zealot Remainers including at MikeHolden42 complaining that I said there was a bright future for me after Brexit. Yes I did, but we'll put in big letters so more of you might just get it. Northern Ireland has not got Brexit. Repeat Northern Ireland has not got Brexit. 12:08 p.m. Update. Sinn Féin President calls for positive leadership to resolve Northern Ireland violence. Mary Lou MacDonald said, it's not just words. Colleagues of mine, like Paul Maskey and others, were out on the Springfield Road yesterday with activists, youth workers, calming the situation and encouraging the young people who had congregated to go home, and the community rallied to that, she said. The nights of more than a week of loyalist violence and stoking up tensions is extremely dangerous. It needs to be faced down and positive leadership needs to be demonstrated right across every community. Every single one of us has an absolute obligation to contribute to calm and reassurance. The proposed protests this weekend must be called off and we need to hear that primarily from unionism. 11:10 a.m. Update, time to fix weak EU. Verhofstadt in scathing attack on VDL after Turkish embarrassment. Guy Verhofstadt lambasted the indecisiveness and weakness of the European Union institutions following the Commission's row with the President of Turkey. Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was taken aback to find her fellow top EU official taking the only chair available next to Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan when the duo visited Ankara. Footage from their meeting on Tuesday showed the first female head of the EU executive, the only woman in the talks, gesturing in disbelief and uttering a surprised sigh as Erdogan and European Council President Charles Michel took the two center stage seats prepared, relegating her to an adjacent sofa. The move sparked a diplomatic row between the EU and the Turkish leader, who later claimed the sitting arrangements were approved by the bloc ahead of the meeting. Mr. Verhofstadt said the row highlighted the shortcomings of the European Union ever since the separation of the two roles between the Commission and the Council. 9:58 a.m. Update, they've breached Brexit deal. Britons attack EU as UK expats lose jobs and bank accounts. Britons have reacted with fury over reports expats living in the EU are losing their jobs, homes and healthcare. Following Brexit, expats have claimed authorities in some states such as Italy, France and Spain are not adhering to the conditions agreed under the withdrawal agreement. With some barred from returning to their second homes or threatened with deportation, Express. Co.uk readers reacted with fury over the treatment of UK nationals abroad. A reader insisted the UK should have pushed for a no-deal Brexit due to the issues some expats have suffered abroad. One person said, seems this Brexit deal is very one-sided, would we not have been better with no deal? A second said, another breach of the withdrawal agreement, if they can break the agreement then we must be allowed to too. 9:29 a.m. Update, Joe Biden takes huge swipe at Brexit as he wades into Northern Ireland chaos. Joe Biden has taken a huge swipe at Brexit after warning the Good Friday Agreement protecting peace in Northern Ireland must not become a casualty of the UK's departure from the European Union as violent riots continued to dominate the streets of Belfast. The week of terrifying violence has centered around increasing tensions over the Irish Sea trade border following Brexit and the fallout from the police's handling of the mass Republican funeral that took place during pandemic restrictions last year. U.S. President Mr. Biden, who is of Irish heritage, has often lashed out at Brexit, with his relationship with the UK and Prime Minister Boris Johnson subsequently getting off to an extremely uncertain start. He has continued to repeat his support for the Northern Ireland Protocol, a key part of the Brexit deal negotiated between the UK and European Union. Under the terms of the agreement, goods arriving from the UK are now subject to additional custom controls at ports in Northern Ireland. But unionists have warned the introduction of trade barriers has strained ties with the rest of the UK and has inflamed loyalist tensions. President Biden's administration called for calm in Northern Ireland and repeated his support for the Good Friday Agreement, but warned it must not become a casualty of Brexit. 8:52 a.m. Update, it's on EU. Brussels weaponized Northern Ireland to punish UK for Brexit, says expert. The EU weaponized Northern Ireland during Brexit talks resulting in this week's awful violence, one commentator has claimed. As clashes continue in Northern Ireland, commentator and historian Ruth Dudley Edwards claimed the EU had used the state to put maximum pressure on the UK to agree a Brexit deal. Although there were alternatives to the protocol, Ms. Dudley Edwards insisted Boris Johnson had been forced to accept a deal that impedes trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland due to his predecessor. Despite agreeing a deal, the commentator also warned Brussels had chosen to interpret the customs rules as strictly as possible to inflict maximum damage to the UK. While she also attacked the EU over its intransigence during Brexit, the commentator also claimed Theresa May had caved in to their demands during her time as Prime Minister. 8:10 a.m. Update, Joe Biden calls for calm in Northern Ireland while voicing support for Brexit protocol. Joe Biden added his voice to calls urging for calm in Northern Ireland, after a week of violence shook the province. The U.S. President also reiterated his support for the Northern Ireland Protocol, which was negotiated as part of the Brexit deal. Under the terms of the agreement negotiated with the EU, goods arriving from the UK are subject to custom controls at Northern Irish ports. Unionists have argued, however, that the protocol has strained ties with the rest of the UK through the imposition of trade barriers and has inflamed loyalist tensions. Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, said, "We are concerned by the violence in Northern Ireland and we join the British, Irish and Northern Irish leaders in their calls for calm." She added, "We welcome the provisions in both the EU-UK Trade Cooperation Agreement and the Northern Ireland Protocol, which helped protect the gains of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement." 8:10 a.m. Update, Tory MP says Brexit is no excuse for violence in Northern Ireland as unrest continues. Brexit is no excuse for the dramatic unrest that is shaking Northern Ireland for the seventh consecutive night, a Tory MP has said. The civil unrest which erupted in Northern Ireland has partly been blamed on Brexit. Speaking on BBC Newsnight, former Conservative Northern Ireland Secretary Theresa Villiers said she doesn't believe Northern Ireland is in jeopardy. "I do not believe that the peace process is in jeopardy," said Ms. Villiers. "It's a depressing fact that rioting and lawlessness of the kind we've seen on the streets over recent days is something that has disfigured Northern Ireland over decades. We need a robust police response to it, but references back to Brexit are not an excuse for these rioters. Nothing justifies what they're doing." 7:50 a.m. Update, no wonder Labour didn't want Brexit. Thornberry mocked for failing to understand trade. Labour's Emily Thornberry has been accused of failing to understand international trade policy after the shadow minister warned Britain could accidentally end up with a trade deal with China. The government has made joining the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTPP) one of its key priorities for trade in 2021. A formal application to join the group was submitted by International Trade Secretary Liz Truss in January. The bloc is made up of 11 countries: Canada, Mexico, Peru, Chile, New Zealand, Australia, Brunei, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam and Japan. It is one of the fastest-growing free trade areas in the world and is set to overtake the EU in the next few years. However, Ms. Thornberry has written to Ms. Truss demanding the public consultation on joining the CPTPP be reopened. She said China is also eager to join the bloc and Britain could be forced into a trade deal with the communist country via the trade bloc.